ये तो एक ही वर्जन है, आपने दूसरे भी देखे होंगे, माँ तुझे सलाम वाला, वंदे मातरम वाला। तो वहाँ भी शुरुआत कहाँ से होती है? थार डेजर्ट से, और बाद में मतलब बहुत ही स्थिर और शांत शुरुआत के बाद एकदम इतनी डायनामिक हो जाती है वो जो सफ़र है। when the लहराते हुए जो हमारे झंडे वगैरह है, सो इट्स एन एक्स्ट्रॉर्डिनरी आई थिंक एंड पोएटिक tribute to Mother India. So thank you, Bharat Balaji. A great, let's give him a round of applause. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Don't give me applause. Just subscribe to Virtual Bharat. Period. मैं खाली हाथ नहीं जाऊंगा. Doors are closed. We are checking all mobiles. Thank you.
Definitely. Let's please do that. Let's support, share, support, and subscribe. As they say, we usually, it's not last, what's the expression? It's last but not the least. I would twist that and say we are saving the best for the last. So Amish is a dear friend of mine. I think we share a lot. We have a heart-to-heart, a soulful relationship, I must say. He comes from the eternal city of Banaras, and you know him as a great writer, but I know him as a Shiv Bhakt. I know him as a meditator. I know him as a deep thinker, as a serious and seeking soul, as a beautiful human being whose life has been a struggle, and every word he writes is full of depth and feeling. So please, a round of applause to Amish Tripathi.
Thank you so much. What a kind introduction, and what a hard act to follow, my friend. What a film, yeah. What a film. Thinking on the concept, how many of you see yourselves as storytellers? Writers, authors, filmmakers, not producers. Yeah? Everyone? Yeah? Okay. I think it was Muriel Rickenson who said that the universe is actually not made up of atoms. It is made of stories. Stories is actually how humanity connects to each other. And what is civilization except the passing of that flame of connection from our ancestors to our descendants? And we are the proud fire keepers in the middle at this point of time. Civilization is never the worship of ashes. It is about the preservation of the flame. Right? That is our job as our generation. And that task usually falls on the storytellers, because storytellers have, I think Steve Jobs had said that it is the most powerful job in the world, because people give you what is most precious, which is not their money. Their most precious thing that they can give you is their time and attention. And what you do with that time and attention is up to you, right? Whether you'll do something positive or whether you'll do something negative with it. And one of the things I think about is that if you see stories across different ages, you can almost predict to a very reasonable certainty what the cultural context was in which that story emerged. How many of you saw the recent Top Gun Maverick? Yeah? And how many of you saw the original Top Gun? Did you notice in the Top Gun Maverick, the enemy wasn't even named, right? It was almost like they were trying to be almost a little sissy. यार आप enemy से क्या लड़ोगे when you can't even name the enemy, right? And is that the mood that the US was in? That नहीं यार, be nice to everyone, शत्रु बोध भी नहीं होना चाहिए. Whereas the original Top Gun was very, right? It's a cultural context. See the cultural context of Indian movies, Indian cinema. You see the cinema of the 1950s, on average, I'm saying, very hopeful, positive, Naya Daur, the three greats, Raj Kapoor, Devanand, and Dilip Kumar, very positive, like we have just got our independence, we are on our way. And then you see the decade of the 60s, Shami Kapoor, Kashmir Ki Kali, just enjoyment, right? Fun. Things are going well. By the 70s, what happens? Angry young man, right? And Amitabh Bachchan as an actor was actually, he'd faced a series of flops, right? in the 1970s when he'd just come. The script that made him Zanjeer was actually rejected by most of the top actors. Amitabh Bachchan took it. I can't say I've discussed this with him, but probably because he thought, okay, at least I'm getting one option.
So desperate.
Yeah. And it created an entire new paradigm. And then by the 90s, you had Shah Rukh Khan, NRI, where Indians were at least doing well abroad. Right? So, is it that if you can move from stories to cultural context, can you move the other way around as well? Can storytellers be alive to what is actually happening in their culture? And if they imbibe it, the stories that will naturally emerge are those that will have a purpose at that time. Right? And what is the cultural context of India today? Why would all of you get so emotional when you see that film? It is, how many of you know the story of Hanumanji when he was a child? You know he had been cursed, he had forgotten his strength. You guys know that?
He jumped into the sun.
Yeah.
I think Angada jumped to his sun thinking the sun is an apple.
Correct. Yeah. Depending on which part of India you're in, the fruit changes. Yeah. The sun could sometimes be an apple, sometimes something else.
Kashmir, it's apple.
Transmission error, Chinese whispers. Okay, wrong term. But do you know how Hanumanji actually got his powers back? Did he have to do a puja? Did he have to do a yajna? Yeah. Did he have to do a battle? You know, the Hercules had to fight a lot of battles, right, to get his power. What did he have to do? Exactly. All that had to happen was he just had to be reminded of it. Right? I think we are living in a phase where India is being reminded of who we are. And this, if you think about it, when we go abroad, the way many of us Indians even look at ourselves, "Arey yaar, hum to bechari country hain." You know, some New York Times journalist will say something about us, hum log dubak ke baith jayenge. We are India, yeah. Right? We are today the 5th largest economy on earth. We just crossed our former colonial master, the UK. Every Indian should applaud for every other Indian for this. We are in many ways reminding ourselves of what our culture is. There's so many of us who were convinced when we were growing up, because the British would teach us that, or at least our colonial education system, which hadn't been reformed even though the British had left, that the British created India. How many of you believe that the British created India? How many of you believe that our ancestors created India? It's a very different context today than how it was, right, a few decades back. We are a nation in change. We are rediscovering ourselves. We are rediscovering the strength and the beauty of our past. But at the same time, the cultural context that should be there is that things which need to be challenged should be challenged, right? Because our ancestors did that too. Which is why I encourage all of you, read our ancient literature as well. How many of you have read, could either be the translations or the originals of Kalidasa's plays or Bhasa's plays or Thiruvalluvar? Okay, much smaller number than I'd hoped, at least in this atmosphere. Those who haven't, there are translations available. Bhasa, Kalidasa, Thiruvalluvar, Thirukural, there are so many that you read. You read the context in which our ancestors wrote, you realize actually that they weren't so dyed in the wool, nothing can be challenged, nothing can be questioned. It wasn't like that. Bhasa wrote a play called Pancharatra. How many of you have heard of Pancharatra?
That's not very popular. Urubanga is very popular.
Urubanga also, okay. Urubanga. How many of you have read Urubanga or Pancharatra? Do you notice actually he changed the traditional interpretations of the Mahabharata, and Bhasa is considered the greatest Sanskrit playwright ever. In Pancharatra, the Mahabharata war didn't even happen, right? But it was a very respectful, different interpretation. You read our ancestors' stories, you realize how kick-ass our ancestors were and how we are in many ways unworthy descendants. of people who were capable beyond measure. There was, and this I think, Bharat and Bhakranji, I know we have discussed this a long time of how Indian culture had actually expanded to many parts of the world. You've been to Southeast Asia? Yeah? How many of you? Ramayana is out there. You see Lord Ganesh statues. The largest Hindu temple is in Cambodia. Right? Buddhism went to China, Japan, Central Asia. Indonesia's airline is Garuda. The most popular religion in the ancient Roman era was Mithraism. How did all of this go there? Did India send conquerors and soldiers? Did we ever send an army? Outside of Rajendra Chola, he'd send. But anyone else? Did we send an army? No. How did our stories spread? Our stories, our culture did not spread through hard power. It spread through soft power. We didn't force others to listen to our culture. We attracted them to it. Right? This was the power of our storytellers. This is what we are rediscovering right now, which is why I think this is perhaps one of the best times in the last 1,000 years to be an Indian storyteller. All we need to do is get in touch with our real roots. Don't just travel, meet real Indians, learn. All of us may speak English well, right? But I encourage everyone, you must have at least 1 or 2 languages which you also speak like a native. I speak Hindi like a native as well. But that was my good fortune of birth, because at home we spoke only in Hindi. In our family, we were the first generation to be educated in English, right? You must know an Indian language. If you're in Goa, you must know Konkani or Marathi like a native without using any English words, right? You know all this, get into our culture well. Also, don't be anti-West. There are great things we can learn from the West too. Our ancestors used to believe that knowledge can come from anywhere. Ano bhadra krito entu vishwataha, that noble thoughts come to me from any direction. This was a lovely Sanskrit line. If there are good things in the West, we should learn from them too. Goddess Saraswati can bless anyone. Learn all that you can from them as well. Have that confidence that after 1,000 years, like Lord Hanumanji, India is being reminded of its strength and power once again. Go out and tell your stories, conquer the world once again. Conquer is a very aggressive word. Attract the world once again to India and to our way of life.